Hello everybody, Dren608 here. This is going to be a series of videos on GMT's reprint of Victory Games Vietnam 1965-1975. I am going to be going through the full campaign setup, so starting in 65, ending in 75. This will not be a complete playthrough. I'm basically going to do the setup portions for the ARVN and then the NLF. Then we will do the first interphase session, which just gives us more units on the board. Just kind of go through the mechanics of how this works. If you purchase this game and then you start unfolding the maps and go, oh my lord, I have no space for playing this. They do have a very good Vassal module here that will let you play it either hot seat or via the Vassal servers live with something else to do your voice exchanges, and you can even play it via email, sending vlogs back and forth. I would strongly suggest that you just set aside a couple 3 hours, a day or two a week, and just play it live versus each other on the Vassal server. Keep vlogs so that you can pace back through the various turns and things that happen so that you can refresh yourself before you play the next session, as well as have both players saving the game. So if something happens to one person's computer, the other one can get it up. I am using the 3.6.19 Vassal module, so I don't know if the version 2.23 is going to be compatible with this. I think it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just basically going through the setup rules for the Battle for Vietnam. And I have a vlog here that I'm going to try and just step through and show you what I'm doing. One of the things that is not on the thing, there are some things here that aren't here that I had to create, like the supply. Oh, I hate this about Vassal. So I created all the pieces here. Like I said, some markers not on the track for this scenario, I just added them. So now what I'm doing is I'm building the armored cavalry for several of the divisions. And you'll see me just kind of I'm placing them all in like reinforcement cities, where the little things are, and some that aren't. Like this one here, this is the first of the 5th Division. There. So the 5th Division Cavalry Battalion did not get placed in one. I placed the 1st Division here in Hue, or the 7th. Yeah, the 7th Armored Battalion of the 1st Division. I believe the right-hand side is the division. So I spent 9 armored cavalry for 1 supply each. And you'll see that I've moved the supply marker down. Then I go and I build the infantry battalions pretty much on all the border capitals. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to save basically I'm garrisoning all the red dots, because those are very nasty hits on your so I'm just kind of going around the map and saying, where are all the semi-isolated red dots, and kind of putting infantry battalions down. There are 24 of them, so there's going to be quite a few that I'm putting down. I do scatter them out a bit. I don't really expect to actually hold many of these capitals here with the initial setup. By the way, this is a setup, and I stress a setup. It is not necessarily the best setup. It is functional. So that's about all I can say. Is what it's really doing is this is it's 24 battalions with 1 personnel, 2 supply per 3 draft and 16 supply. So 8 draft and 16 supply. Now one of the other things they didn't do is they didn't set this stuff right. So I had to, you have to put that in. You'll notice this SVN morale is not set correctly. Now I'm pulling out there's like 12 armored battalions, and they're going to fill in some of the other red dots around the board here. And I did a switch there where I put the infantry up closer to the border here and the armored unit down there. 12 armored battalions is 12 supply. So you'll see I bring that down. Next up, I went and I think there's 7 armored cavalry battalions. And I kind of do the same thing. I'm just kind of dropping them in red dot cities and a border city. I kind of filled up all the red dot cities, so now I'm trying to get some of the border cities, and I do put them in. I next go out and pick up 2 regiments, the paratrooper and the Marines here. As well as put down some more armored cavalry here. So I put down the last 2 armored cavalry from the last 2 divisions, which was 2 supply. 7 independent armed cavalry, which was 7 supply. Let's put this up here. And in 2 regiments, the Para 3rd and the Marine 3rd is 2 personnel and 4 supply for them. So that comes out to 13 supply and 2 personnel, so I have to take the personnel up to 10. So I hold 217 and I've spent 10 personnel so far. Okay, now the next thing I do, and this is the controversial thing. What am I doing? What's going on here? It's not letting me. It's not doing anything for me. Oh no, my log is not working. I don't know why it's not working. Let's move him to there and there, try and get it to. It's not showing what I did next. Oh, this is me setting the morale. That's what it is. That's why you can't see it, because I didn't have the box up. They said they have the morale at 0. GMT, if anybody of you guys there are watching this, could you kindly go back and set up the scenario setup for this to have the morale set at 65 like it's supposed to be? Also, you're going to find out that there's a discrepancy on a couple of other things. The transport points. According to the playbook, there's only 2 air mobile points, not 3. So, starting SVN morale needs to be set on the pop commitment chart, which I just showed you. And starting air mobile counter was at 3 when the playbook states it starts at 2. So there's a couple of other mistakes. Then I put air mobile points available out here. I also put out the Riverine things in the 0 box because sooner or later you're going to buy them. Then I did some rearranging of some of the points there. Basically, the U.S. is going to be in the lower right corner. Okay. And I have one too many air mobile points available. This one should be deleted. So here's where I'm talking about. This is the controversial part. Most people won't do this. They'll build out some more regiments, maybe put in some replacement points. I'm going to do that with U.S. supply in the first interface. So I do this more times than not, usually. Maybe I won't build all of them, but I spend 45 SVN supply and 25 personnel to go get, where are they? All 5 Rangers. They inhibit border crossings and will augment S&D ops for the entire game, so why not get them out early when you have a bunch of extra supply? So that's what I did, is I put all 5 of them in the Ranger availability box. So this makes it VC coming into the border hexes. It costs them, I think, an extra 2. I have to double check the rules on that. Where's the... I think it's here. So if you have 3 to 4 Rangers, you can build 3 Rangers to get a +1, and then you have some extra left over. I just went ahead and built all 5, so it's +2 for them to enter into the border hexes. So if they want to run back and forth across the border here, it's going to cost them like 3, at least +2 to wherever they're moving. Okay. Okay. And I think I'm going to save the 5 supply. For the U.S. is going to send probably. They come in groups of 7. So if I send like 5 commitment points to supply, that would be 35 plus this 5 will give me 40 to do first turn builds. Supply, get some replacement points out there for the ARVN. Put in some more regiments into places like Hue and Saigon and in that area, because those are important places as well. Now comes the fun stuff. We're going to go do generals. Generals are a freaking nightmare, to say the least. SVN leaders window. Here we go. This is where things get interesting. So we pulled the first 3-star leader. It's -3 and 0. So if you go back to these charts here, and let's go to the morale chart. So during the political phase, the right side of the counter will apply to the U.S. So that's a 0, so it's not going to affect the U.S. However, in the South Vietnamese one, it's going to be the 3-letter left side. So every turn we have, it's going to be -3 morale in South Vietnam. Not ideal, but you have to basically build for that as you're doing it. You just gotta kind of compensate for whatever happens here on the leader charts. So now I'm going to start from the right with the Navy and work to the left, and then I will start on the divisions. I will start on the left here. So I'm starting here in the middle, where you see my mouse going. Does this work? It doesn't work, yeah. Okay. Oops, I don't know what that is. Okay. I thought this worked. Doesn't work over here. Yeah. So I'm starting here. I'm going to go to the left for the corps, and then I'm going to go to the right for the divisions. I'm just sort of starting in the middle. So here we go. So I pulled a -1. He goes in the Navy. Then you have to roll Now, the initial die roll for these things, if you look here, you'll see that you can do adjustments and whatever. In the setup, the initial die roll is supposed to be 2 dice plus 2, maximum of 10. The game is just set up as if you were in-game, it would be 2 dice plus 3, and you just put them down. And there was no maximum. So if you roll like a 10 and get plus 3, then you'll be at 13 morale. So you have to make adjustments here. So what I do is I place him. Actually, I place him in the 8, and then move him down 1. And then the other thing you need to do is you need to set his core command, which I do here to the Air Force. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you can see that he's the Air Force leader. Is the next one that I pull, I just dropped him in the 10 box. Again, 7 plus 3 is 10, but it really should be a 9, so you move him down 1. And now if you right click on these and you look at the set core commander, I've set him to 6, okay? So it starts with 1 here, 2, 3, 4. 5 is the Chief of Staff, 6 is the Air Force, 7 is the Navy. Air Force and Navy are really only there for coup things. They don't really do anything for the South Vietnamese. I really wish that they would have them have some effect after U.S. withdrawal, where these leaders would actually, like, based on their number there, they would have a chance of, maybe reducing the American Air Force that's left in the Air Force guy, and any naval points that are left would be reduced or made effective or whatever based on the Navy, but I guess that's a little too much. So now we're going to go for the Chief of Staff. We got a 2, which is not bad. We rolled an 8, which would be an 11. Can't go higher than 10 to begin with. So I put him in 11 and then bring him down. Does I have his loyalty right? I don't know if I have his loyalty right. Yes, he's actually a 10. Okay, and then the B guy was 4th Corps. He rolled a 5, or rolled a 2 plus 3 is 5. The minimum is plus 2, so it would be a 4, but the minimum you can go to is a 5. So even though he's a 0 in 4 Corps, he's probably going to get replaced fairly quickly because he's in the you must roll me, you don't have a choice column or row. So 4 Corps is probably going to be replaced in the first interface. It's just the way things work. Like I said, you kind of have to. So I got him set the right way. Next one, I put, he's a plus 1 in 3rd Corps. Again, a 5 plus 3 is an 8, but you only can add 2. So I put him in the 7. I actually put him in the 9 as if he had rolled. And then put him to, you always have to make sure that you use this function here to make sure that the amount that's set on the leader is correct. Because like if you go here now, and you can also set their coup here. So this is how you make sure. It's very physically imposing here when you're doing it the first time. But once you get this initial one done, then it's much more automated where the plus 3 matters and you don't have to do all this stuff. You do need to check from time to time to make sure they haven't moved for some reason. But pretty much it kind of takes care of it. So we get a 1 guy. Rolled a 6 plus 3 is a 9, which can only be plus 2, so he's going to be an 8. So I put him in the 9 and then move him down to the 8. He's assigned to 2nd Corps. And then 1st Corps, I Corps is going to be a -3 dude, which is terrible. And his loyalty is as high as it can be. So we have to take him down to a 10. And then he's assigned to I-Corps. So not only do we have a lousy leader, but he's not likely to ever get into the into the replacement bucket either, because he's at the maximum. So that's very annoying. So now we're going to go do the divisions. Far left, not too bad. I-Corps will be an average. Far right, I meant. And then now I'm going into the divisions. I got a +3 in Division 1. Again, rolled an 8, +3 is an 11, which means it's actually going to be a 10. And then I set him. And the reason why you want to set all these things is because when you do your effectiveness, so you can see that if you click on this, it now says that he's first division. When you do your effectiveness die roll, it is supposedly fairly well automated, where if they fail their die roll, it'll do the math for you, and if they fail their die roll, it'll just mark the division as ineffective, and it should show up on their units that are on the board. So that's a good thing about the Vassal module. You don't have to walk around trying to find all the first division units wherever they may be and say, okay, ineffective marker, ineffective marker, ineffective marker. We will see that when we do the first interface. We'll roll the die and see if the automation is working as designed. So so now we're doing second division. Again, it's only a +2, so I have to drop it down 1. Third division is, so right now, my first 3 divisions have a 3, a 2, and a 2, so I'm not doing too badly on my division leaders here. I can't go up that high. 5th division is a 4, which, again, can't go up that high. 7th division is a 4, so I'm getting a lot of positive leaders, which is making me worry, because the more positive leaders I pull now, the more likely I'm going to get negative leaders when I get to divisions like the 23rd, which has 5 units, and the 2 really strong divisions, Marine and Airborne, that have really strong regiments. And I'm worried that I'm going to get terrible things there. So an 8 + 2 should actually be a 10. So I put him in the 11 and bring him back down. Now the 9th division is a 7. I always like to have the 7 either in the 1st division or the 23rd, because they have 4 regiments each. And I always hope that I get like the 7 or the 6 in those things, but I didn't this time around. So that's the way it goes. And I rolled an 8, which can't, it's only +2, so it would be a 10. Then I got a 3 in the 18th division. Rolled a 5 + 3 is an 8, so it actually should be a 7. I gotta check this guy. Did I do him right? If I increase his loyalty, it goes up by 1, so I will just decrease it back down to 10. It says 11, so I really need to have him there and do it again. Yeah, he's a loyalty 10. That's what he's supposed to be. I didn't do that one right. 21st division is the 6. So I missed, my 7 and my 6 are in the wrong division. Initial loyalty rolled was a 2, + 3 is a 5, so even though he's a 6, he's going to probably have to be replaced because he's down on the 5 row. Just like 4th Corps. It's just things you have to live with this. So the 22nd division is a 0 with a loyalty of 6 + 9. 3 is 9, so you set him in the 9 and you have to take him down 1 because you're trying to adjust it to being only +2. 23rd division was a -2, which is terrible. 4 regiment division that's going to have a negative leader. And he rolls as high as he can. I mean, he rolled a 9 + 3, which would be 12, but you're going to have to bring it back down to 10. So he's kind of like I-Corps. He's terrible, and he's not likely to be replaced. These are the ones when you get -2s and -3s, you want them to be down here, where you must roll for them. or at least down here where you can roll for them to try and get something a little better. But, okay, so the 25th Division is a -1, so he's not much better. And we put him down. He has the same thing. He's really high level. So these terrible leaders are really high morale. They're not going to get moved down here anytime soon. It takes several turns for them to even get into the place where I can roll for them. So that's bad news. The next one we put up is the Marine leader. He's a +4, so that's good. The Marines will have a good chance of being effective. He rolled a 7. +3 is a 10, but it actually has to be a 9, so we move it down. And then the last one we pull is the Airborne leader. He's a +2. I rolled a 5, which is an 8 loyalty, but it has to actually be a 7. And there you have it, okay? So, and the ARVN Setup, okay? And I think that should be, can't go above 10 for playbook setup rules. That's why you saw me doing all the shenanigans I was doing. And then that's the end of the log file. So we're not going to start a new log file at this point. We're just say no. So there you have what we have. The guys that are in the 7s, you're going to hope that they don't fall down into the 6s. This 21st Division is probably going to have to be replaced. Now, fortunately, you get to choose the order to replace these in. So it's a possibility that, like for the 23rd Division, I might take its 1 armored cavalry off so that it doesn't have any units on the board, and then hope that this guy fails and I can get the 6 into there. I don't think I want to do that for the 1st Division because he's in I Corps right now, and even if I get a really good leader there, odds are against him being activated, so I think we're just going to write off the fact that the 1st Division and I Corps is just never going to be effective, and which means that it will change how I do my initial deployment for the Americans when I bring them in. You usually drop a division somewhere down around Saigon area to try and mitigate 4th Division. I may do a bigger drop than I normally do. Normally you try and limit yourself to about 25 commitment points. I might do a little bigger drop this time and then cut back in the next season where I'm just sending in support type points. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do in that interface. So that's what it's going to look like from the ARVN setup point of view. The next time around, we will do the NLF setup. They have 90 support supply points to set up their VC, and they have some, as you can see already, there's some anywhere in Laos here, and 4 political sections anywhere on the map. And they get these. They can set them up anywhere here or in Laos, so North Vietnam or Laos. So they can set up, and they have to set up in the hexes. They can't set up like in the off-board box here in the trail. We will discuss the NLF setup when we do the next one. If you like what you see here, please hit the thumbs up button. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the notify bell to be notified to upload videos and our scheduled streams. I do multiple venue type streams. I am doing a stream for a Pathfinder computer role-playing game. Things tend to be what I do on streams and a lot of my videos lately. I'm getting back to the wargaming field here with some of these. Some of these are more of like, this is a show you how the interface works, give you an idea of how you have to go through the steps to set everything up. The one thing that you don't have here in the Vassal module is any kind of spreadsheet that would let you record everything you just did. I'm going to work on building a spreadsheet that has a tab for every year for both the NLF and for the Free World Allies, ARVN and US. And I'm going to set it up so that there's a tab for every year, so there'll be like 10 tabs. and you'll be able to just, you put the numbers in, they'll transfer over to the next column like they're supposed to, and so forth, so that you'll just be able to carry things forward. The numbers will carry forward for you. The calculations will be done for you, and you won't have to do a lot of that math yourself. You'll only have to record what happens, like morale going up or down in a specific section, and then it'll carry over to the starting morale of the following turn and all that kind of stuff the following season. So just try to automate this a little bit. There's been a couple of people have done some spreadsheets for the original game. I'm going to try and put one up using the sheets that we have just as a play aid, specifically for the Vassal module. You could probably use them in a paper game, but if I'm playing on the board, I probably would just have the sheets, photocopy a bunch of the sheets and then just fill them out and do the math that way. One of the things that they do have here, where is it? Display, notes, inventory of all pieces, automated combat results. This I will do a video on doing some operations so you can see how this works. I thought there was one. Operations markers, unit leader force pools, 2d6, 1d6. I thought there was something in here. Ho Chi Minh Trail window. So they put a lot of these things in windows. In the original game, they put all these things on the board, and you just move things on the board instead of the picture over here. So 6 one, half dozen the other. You can show the turn track, show you what turn and season you're in. We're basically doing spring here, and then we'll start with summer interface turn when we actually get there. Right now, we're just doing, this is essentially a spring, quote, interphase or whatever, as you're doing the setup, which is how I would record it. Pacification modifiers. You can go through all the things and add in all the modifiers here. And then there should be, I thought there was a screen. Maybe there isn't a screen anymore. Oh, here's the pacification mod. You'll notice here that they already have in here all these counters, which is really nice. So that when you do this, I'm going to see if this actually works. But you go through and you set up all of these up, okay? And you enter all of these. And then there should be a pacify provinces. Once you have all these numbers set in the interface step, which I will do an interface like the fall interface, I will do that step. Like as I'll show you some operations. It's not going to be a complete playthrough. I'll just show you how to do some operations with, things that the NLF might do and things that the US player will try to do. We'll run some operations just to give you some idea of how that all works and how you designate things using the Vassal module and things like that. So it's going to be more of a how to do things using this module. It's not going to be a strict playthrough where it's opposed, because it's very hard for you to do this solo. Because when I log in the next time, I'll log in as the NLF player, and I will have all sorts of hidden information that the Free World Allies would not know, and they'll take care of things there. It's one of the reasons why I want to have two spreadsheets built for spreadsheet files built for the NLF and for the Free World Allies. The Free World Allies, you have to show the NLF what you're doing. They get to know all the numbers and get to see all the math. The NLF, you only look at their numbers at the end of the game. And if they messed up, then they technically lost because they cheated. So they have to be very careful to do everything correctly. But the Free World Allies don't get to know that. One of the things I noticed on here, and I'm still not sure about this, are the replacements for the NVA and the VC, are they actually public knowledge? Or are they basically kept track of by the NVA, the NLF player, and the only thing that you can tell from the Allied side is how many did he spend this turn. And you can make a note of it and make sure that when you're looking at his sheet that he had that many replacement points. I don't know if those are supposed to be available or not. But anyway, any markers on here are going to be ARVN type markers will be in the lower left. Free World Allies, the US and all of their markers will be in the lower right. The NVA will be in the upper right, and the VC markers and things will be in the upper left. As far as I know, the only markers that they get to see are the VC replacements and NVA replacements, but I'm still not sure that that is public knowledge to the Free World allies. That's one of those things that I'm really not sure if that's really, if it's just a matter of I can see how many he's spent, or do I really know how many he has so I can try and force him to spend down. I don't know exactly how that's supposed to work. It would strike me as, since everything else is hidden information, that should be too, and that these should just be markers of saying, well, I know I've forced you to spend 6 NVA replacements, and then in the spring 2 turns of this particular turn, and if you go and you look at that spring turn and he didn't have 6 replacements in his sheet, then quote, he cheated, and you win because he's not keeping track of things properly. It puts the onus on the NVA player, the NVA and the VC player. They have to be very careful and keep track of everything. So again, I don't know. Maybe some of you out there that will take a look at this, you will be able to tell me if it really is supposed to be a public knowledge thing. I know I usually played in the old days. I always played that the replacements were public knowledge. I just didn't know anything else. But I did know how many replacements they were pumping out through my intelligence services or whatever. So next time we will do the NLF setup. Probably be a little bit quicker. And then the time after that, we will do the initial interphase where we do builds essentially. You don't do a pacification in that one. And then the one after that should be the 4th one in the series. I will show you some operations. Basically, I'll do some moves with the VC and the Western and the Free World Allies, show you how to do a couple of operations, just so you can see how things work, how the Rangers come in, how you commit things, when you have to do it, sort of the sequence of play, just following the sequence of play, making sure you do everything in the right order. And then after that, the 5th or 6th one, the last video will be doing an interphase, and then I will stop it there because you can't really play this solo. I did try once. The way I did it before is I would make a whole bunch of like NLF moves, and then I would know where all these units are and everything. So I wouldn't do Free World and say, okay, it's Free World Allies thing, and I would go away for 4 or 5 days before I would come back to the game. And then I would come back and it's like, okay, I remember him moving a bunch. I remember I moved a bunch of stuff, and I can't remember where I moved who as far as strength goes. So then I would have some semi fog of war. And with the Free World Allies, basically you would run a few operations, and then I would say, okay, as the VC, they're saying, hey, I want to do the next operation, and then I would go ahead and do VC operations, and then again I would walk away for 5 days. So I was only doing, I think, a season every month, doing it that way, because I had to have these like 4 or 5 day breaks in between things whenever the Free World Allies would get to do something. So it took quite long. I think I got myself into the beginning of 1968. I tried the Swamp 'em early with the Free World Allies. It's like 50 points on the first turn and like 25 every turn thereafter. And I was facing offensives in late 67. And from then on out, it'd be like every other turn at least was an offensive for the NLF player, and that just was looked to be a settlement, a point of disaster coming down the pike in late 68, 69. I would end up with not being able to maintain myself. I was really high up on the population chart. I think I was up to 270 or something like that with the South Vietnamese, but it was about to start heading the other way, just from them conquering capitals and taking things away from me and all sorts of stuff. And the pacification was going to go in the tank in a hurry, so I was getting ready to dump a huge number of supplies into the South Vietnamese, and just have them, when they had that really high thing, just have them build like 300 replacement points or something, so that they would have this huge number to try and conserve until they had till the end of the war, when they would have a lot of replacements to try and hold off the NVA when the U.S. had to finally withdraw. We'll see how people play this. There is some very good articles out on Board Game Geek. Jason Crawley has been very active. He has written some strategy ideas for both the NLF and the Free World Allies, and how it pertains to the whole long-term war that you have to remember. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. It's going to be roughly 4 seasons a turn, 4 seasons a year. Each season is 2 turns, so that's 8 turns. So you're looking at something along the close to like 80 game turns that things are going to be happening, and you have to plan into the far future. If you want the U.S. forces to stay in South Vietnam longer than they did historically, you're going to have to do the initial build-up in a different way. So it's he's done some very good articles there. He also has come up with some very interesting house rules, if you will, to limit the idea of just massive replacement point, like having an augmented brigade here with maybe an artillery or two supporting it, and just having like a division of the NVA sitting here banging on Tam Kai, or Key, I guess it is, Tam Key, and it's just like he bangs and he loses a couple and you lose a couple and he loses a couple and you lose a couple, and it just drains all the replacement points from each side for a fairly insignificant battle. And he had some rules in there that limits the number of rounds a battle can go, and the loss has to be you can only lose so much for the entire combat rather than each round. And it seemed like it might be a very playable alternative. I would like to see many games played under those rules to see if it really does help balance it out, or if it unbalances it in the favor of one side or the other. I can't tell. This is a very long game, so it's very hard to get results of those kinds of house rule type things. You need to have lots of players trying them out, and I don't know how many players there are that play the full campaign. I know there's about a half a dozen that I see reports from, and they tend to all play each other. So there's a hardcore, maybe a half a dozen to 10 players, and I don't know if we'll ever get to being able to test out some of those kind of alternate rules and see how well they'll work. Okay, that's enough of me babbling. If you like what you see, hit the thumbs up button. If you really like to see, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notify bell. This is the GMT reprint of Vietnam, 1965-1975, originally a VG game. Originally designed by Nick Karp. Some of the changes that have been put in here are things that Nick Karp pointed out that should have been changed in the original game, but never quite made it. So a lot of the errata and stuff is taken into account in the rules. So I strongly suggest you go and look at the living rules, because they've also, any erratas from the original print has also been put in the original rules. So that helps immensely. And yeah, I'm John 608. Until we meet again, stay safe and bye-bye.